Hello artistic adventurers and welcome back to Sketch Quest. We here at TYG have teamed up with some incredible artists to bring you this series of tips to help you start your adventure right. But before we can leave Tutorial Island, we need to brush up on a few skills. And don't worry if you're just starting out, because I'll be learning alongside you. And don't forget to use the hashtag SketchQuest so you can share your results with us. Let's see what today's quest is, shall we? We are back with VTuber artist extraordinaire J.L.P. How you doing, precious?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming back. I'm looking forward to this today. What is our quest today?
So today we're going to be looking at curly and coily hair types.
Yay!
So in the last two episodes, we looked at straight hair and wavy hair, but I wanted to do curly and coily hair as a separate episode because the way I go about drawing it is slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
So just to recap, this is what curly and coily hair typically is. It's between 3A, 3B, 3C for curly, and coily is defined as 4A, 4B, and 4C. I'm just taking that reference that we've been using in SketchQuest, and I've just drawn up a few different types of curly and coily hair. So we can see the shape of curly and coily hair is actually pretty different to how I've been drawing straight hair. So with straight hair, we drew it with the long straight lines, like so. And in wavy hair, we were drawing it with the S-shaped lines here. But when it comes to curly and coily hair, I personally like to look at the hair as one bigger shape. So we can see here that I was able to see that the hair was mainly a circle shape. And we can break down the hair into bigger forms, like so. And similarly to the wavy hair, I like to do the S-shape pattern, but I like to do it a lot tighter. So we can see in the last episode, we were doing these big wavy strokes. We can then just practice making them smaller and smaller and smaller. The really cool thing about curly and coily hair is there are so many different hairstyles that you can do in this. Here's a few examples of just men's hairstyle. So we can see here, if we break it down into the bigger shapes, that we have the circle. This one's more of a square shape. This one is kind of spiky. It's really cool. And we can break down all these different shapes in the hair. And we can also do that when we're doing women's hair as well. You can see here this woman has braided hair. However, when I've drawn it, I've kind of drawn it like similar to how I would have drawn the straight hair. This is because when drawing coily hair, I like to get the big shapes in first. And the way I would go about that would be very similar to how I would draw straight hair. Whereas with straight hair, we could draw like the lines of where everything would go. When it comes to braided hair, we can go a step further on really defining those braids. And then we can use our braided techniques that we were learning in the last episodes to really define the braids. A lot of braids with coily hair are really tight, so they're like mini versions of the braids that we were doing last time. And we can see that we can use this technique for all the braids as well. This is like how I do like my hair when I'm like in a rush or something. I'll take the where the braid should be, and then I'll kind of do this like back and forth circle motion on the hair, and it kind of makes it look similar to dreadlocks.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're ever in a rush with your sketch, you can go back and forth like this to show where the hair should be. Kind of scribblish. And that's a really good way in sketching to show like, oh, I want a character with braided hair. To show the difference that it's not going to be a character with straight hair, because if we didn't add these details here, you would probably assume that these are straight hairstyles. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Oh, I really like how you've done the bun on the left side.
I tried the dread version, yeah.
Yeah, looks really cool. So it's really important to study lots of different hairstyles, especially when it comes to curly and coily hair. So here's a few more that we could look at. We're mainly here looking at a few different black women's hairstyles. Curly and coily hair isn't exclusive to black women, but it is very important that we study people of all different races and cultures when we're doing art. And here we can dissect some of the shapes within the hairstyles, and we're looking at the bigger shapes in the hair because we can always add the curls and coils in afterwards.
Kind of comes out that way. It's huge.
I love drawing afros a lot because they're so much fun to draw. When drawing an afro, you want to be thinking about the bigger shape of that afro itself. Similar to how we were looking at roots before, roots are harder to tell with afros, but we can kind of work out where they go because they will have like this little heart inwards, and that's usually where the root is. Whereas with our straight hair, the hair would just go down like that. A lot of afro hair tends to go outwards. So we want to consider that it's got much bigger size and volume. And we can look at more creative hairstyles, like these ones are very cool. So I've just done a few examples here. So this is like the afro one. So we can see that the root is here. Because there's a slight dip in the hair. And we can see that the hair goes outwards. Like so. Instead of just going straight down. So you did a great job. You want to be able to define the outer part of the hair first. And it really can be kind of any shape you want it to be. That's the fun of coily and curly hair, is you can really experiment with your shapes here. So then we see where the root is going to go, and we know it's going to go outwards like so. So then we can apply our like wavy technique around the outside. Of our shape. And then if we remove the sketch underneath, then we have like a really cool afro shape there. I think a lot of people are really scared of drawing like coily hair because it looks really intimidating, but we can easily break it down into different steps again. Likewise, what I said in the last episode, you want to keep the outlines of the hair as simple as possible. Like, avoid adding the curls into the hair when doing the line art because it will get really confusing really fast. So just try and do the main shape that you want the hair to have. We can always add the coils in with the shading. So just on another layer, I can color it in here. Just give it a base color. And then when we select a darker color, what I like to do first when working with coily or curly hair is I like to define where the shading's gonna go before we start adding the curls in. So I'll take another layer and just with a soft brush, I'll show where I want the shading to be. So usually this is at the back of the neck, maybe a bit at the root. We can always blend this out as well. So that's where I want the shading to be. And then on another layer, I can then add a few of the coils into the hair. So in this hair type, you can see that I've used this kind of bumpy shape. So I want to be able to continue that. So I like to start at the edge of the hair and just kind of mimic the line art that I put down. And then we can always take an eraser or rubber on a airbrush mode and just blend it in like that. And we can see that we kind of got the curls of the hair now showing. If you want to be able to draw hair that has like the tight coils in, like with the curly whirly effect, you definitely can do that. One way I would go about it is by, I'll just make another layer quick. Is I would probably do them very small. And you could just put them in like that. I would be very careful not to overdo them. Especially when you're doing cartoons, like usually less is more. We want to be working on the form and the shapes rather than like details that might look a bit out of place. So that's one way we could look into that. Another way to really make the hair pop is just by adding a few stray hairs again. And when you're doing curly hair, you kind of want them to follow the curls, because you can say a lot with these stray hairs. You can do them super curly and show how curly it is, or you can do them rounded, show how round the hair is. You can have a lot of fun with curls and the stray hairs. And with the bigger the stray hairs are, the more frizzy the hair tends to look as well. So if you want a character with really frizzy hair, we can add some really big curls in, stray curls here. And if you want a character with less frizzy hair, we can add a few less. When adding highlights, it's a little different than how we would do it with straight hair. With straight hair, we would try and define where the highlight shadow is like this. With curly and coily hair, I personally like to kind of be able to define more of the area, like the shape that we're following. And then we can always go in and make some of the curls really stand out. We can even create new curls with them. This just helps to give the hair a little bit more texture. And that's kind of how I like to do the kind of afro hairstyles. You can apply this method to pretty much any curly hair. You want to be able to define the shape of the hair. It can be any shape you want. You can do really crazy shapes, like you can do a triangle if you wanted. You can do so many different shapes. And curly hair is beyond fun to draw because you have so much freedom with it. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to do spiky hair, you could fully do that. So make whatever shape you feel most comfortable with, and then work from there. Work out where you want the shadows to go, and then you can go in and really define the texture of the hair from there. So today's quest is to explore different shapes and textures drawing curly and coily hair. Mess around and have fun. Remember to use references and hopefully learn new things.
And remember to use the hashtag SketchQuest so we can see all your creations online. Thank you very much for joining us, JLP.
Thank you for having me.
Remember to give JLP a follow on all the social medias and drop a like and subscribe if you have been enjoying questing alongside us today. We will be back tomorrow with another quest. Until then, we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.